Welcome back, football fans, to the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show presented by Glory Days Magazine. Mark Trible, joined by Coach Tim McAneney. Coach,
how we doing there, Mark?
Did you dry out? It seems like we've had some weather. Luckily now it seems okay.
Yeah, I'm dry.
Yeah, I feel a little dry as well. I want to welcome everybody here in the chat. I already see some people commenting. Thank you for joining us on your Wednesday evening. Congratulations to the Phils. The Phils are in the playoffs. Things are feeling good. Next week at this time, we may be multitasking. We'll see what happens with that.
Yes, the Phils will be playing next Wednesday.
I think they will. First off, I want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor here, the West Jersey Football Coaches Association. The West Jersey Football Coaches Association was established to promote, improve, and unite football in South Jersey. And in less than 3 years, the association has done just that. They created the Battle at the Beach. They've also dedicated themselves to helping others. They've donated more than $50,000 to date to provide scholarships through the National Football Foundation and the Touchdown Club of Southern New Jersey. They also donate to the charity Philly Faces, which helps those in need of facial reconstruction surgery. Thank you to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for their sponsorship of the show. Also want to shout out Dave O'Sullivan, the reason we are here, his platform, South Jersey Glory Days. You see it on this Facebook page if that's where you're tuned in. You can visit SJ Glory Days for all of Sully's excellent content as well. All right, Mac, first off, let's go to our game of the week. And there's a lot to touch on this week. Some games again that, it's not the fullest slate looking forward, but we are going to preview some games. We're going to have a couple additional topics as well. We have our Nod of the Week. We have 2 candidates for that. A name, if you watched last week, you remember, and we'll be sure to show you who we got there. Game of the week, though, Mac, this one was a little bit drier than I expected when I woke up on Saturday morning and looked at the weather and looked outside and got to the car and had about, I even wore my snow pants. I was really worried about a monsoon. Kevin Minnick gave me a lot of trouble for that, but my legs were dry at the end of the day.
He had shorts on.
He had jeans on.
Jeans?
Probably not the same way. But Woodbury hosts Haddonfield, 10:30 a.m. And you know what? I thought this game was one of those, Mac, that when you get in a game, in the weather, in the elements, the team that shows up and truly embraces that and wants to be there, I thought Haddonfield was that team. I could see it from the way they were working out before the game. They were feisty. They were fired up. They win this one 21-6.
Big win for the Haddons.
Big win for the Haddons, and Dominic Hahn really stole the show, man. I mean, another really, really good game from one of South Jersey's best backs that kind of goes under the radar to those who don't face Haddonfield. I think anybody who watched him on tape knows how good he truly is. He ran 17 times for 201 yards, had all 3 touchdowns and a 21-6 victory. Through 4 games, he's got 585 yards. That's more than 145 per game. He's averaged 9 per carry, Mac, and reached the end zone 8 times for Haddonfield. He is a slippery, dodgy type of back. He's going to play at Washington and Lee University next year down in the Shenandoah Valley, Lexington, Virginia, an area I know well. Heck of a player.
Yes, he is. And when you go into those games and that type of, we talk about weather, being able to run the ball, right?
Yes.
Control the football, run the ball, take advantage, don't turn it over. It sounds like the old cliche, but even in those rain games, even more, that you really need to make sure that it gets uncomfortable. I mean, some teams don't feel comfortable in it because it gets them out of what they normally do. As you said, embracing that situation. I mean, look, weather's the same for both teams.
Yes.
So, as we used to say, sometimes it rains. I mean, you gotta figure it out and get it done. And sometimes it's cold, and sometimes it's really hot. I mean, just different conditions.
And when it rains, it pours. And I will say this too, Mac. Just an overall great game from Haddonfield. Quarterback Dante Viccarelli didn't play for Woodbury. He was out with an injury, and
that type of that happens in high school football, and it probably happens more than we sometimes in the media world bring up. And this is not taking anything away from Haddonfield.
Right.
When a high school's missing their starting quarterback, that's a big deal, right? I mean, and I'm not saying that means it's an automatic win or automatic loss. But when you lose a high school quarterback, someone who's a returning starter,
right,
not returning to Woodbury, but a South Jersey football starter. I mean, that's huge, and you have to change some different things and do some things you're not used to, et cetera, et cetera. So,
it is
again,
huge.
I mean, Haddonfield, they still rushed for 201 yards, just one,
Well, I mean,
Dom did alone.
There wasn't going to be a lot of passing in the weather anyway, and the elements. It certainly didn't help Woodbury, and it wasn't the reason Haddonfield won the game. But I will say, in years and years of covering Haddonfield and Mike Miller's defense over there for the Haddons, one thing you know is it's really tough to beat them if you're one-dimensional. I mean, they will have a plan, and you show up without your quarterback in the rain. That's not an enviable situation because they are going to be right on it. I mean, Anthony Reagan had a good game. He played. I mean, he was everywhere defensively for Woodbury, especially. But that's a tough sledding for a team against Haddonfield. They were always going to be well coached. They're always going to be gap sound.
Yes.
They're always going to know what tricks could be coming. And
yes, well coached every single week. And then, again, the emotional part of high school football. I mean, you're not dealing with grown men.
Right.
I mean, the next man up mentality, everybody you can talk about it, but does it actually, there is a little bit of a letdown when a star player, like Dante's not playing, or you fill in the blank. There's around South Jersey, there's players and then every once in a while you see a team that has a kid that comes in and does something he wasn't supposed to do, and the team rallies around him. So,
well, and the quality of, I thought, the way Haddonfield functioned as a unit, and it's something Coach Frank Delano there preaches and spoke about after the game. When you look at, he said, he pointed out one of his receivers sprinting down the field on Hahn's 70-yard touchdown run that pretty much put the game on ice late in the third quarter. And he said, that's a kid who's not getting the ball today, and he's making sure the receiver gets in the end zone. He said, when we play like that, when we function like that, when we have this unit mentality, it's not special to Haddonfield, it's anybody else too. When you play that way, you can do things, you can just keep raising the bar for yourself and keep succeeding. Without that, he said, we're not good enough overall to be able to do that. But the sum of our parts, when everybody's buying in and playing together, is something. And I thought the energy that they brought all day in the rain, they really had a lot of juice. So hats off to them, Haddonfield. They
hardest lesson to teach.
Remain unbeaten. Yeah.
The hardest lesson to teach, and Coach Delano does a great job doing it, is every play, everybody's role makes a difference.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing as a 16, 17-year-old on that field, thinking sometimes the receiver who, the ball's going to the other side of the field, I'm not catching it, I'm not getting it, so I might take this play off. You can, and it's tough in film, you can never fast forward for I don't want to pick on a receiver, but you can never fast forward to say, hey, that extra getting in the way of a deep safety might have gotten us another 10, 20, 30 yards. And it's playing, quote unquote, as a team for the greater good.
I want to give a shout out. It was Dawson Elliott. Thank you, Jill Sweeney, for letting me know. I forgot the name and it had escaped me. But excellent job, Dawson, for the hustle on that play. And how about this? A shout out. We have a viewer in here, a special viewer I want to give a special shout out to. Not that everybody in here isn't a special viewer. You are. Dennis Thomas, assistant coach at Syracuse. Coach, you got a number of South Jersey guys up there. I turned on the game the other night when you were playing Purdue. I saw LaQuint Allen running down the field. It felt like I was back at Rutgers watching the regional bowl game against Winslow. Dennis on the sideline and LaQuint running on the field. So, we got Elijah Clark's doing his thing. Dan Jaquez doing his thing. I know last week you had Kanye Udo for Army and Brady Small for Army as well. So it was a lot of South Jersey
and Clyde Washington
players in a big game.
Clyde was in the Purdue game.
Was in the Purdue game.
Yeah, he was playing for Purdue, so got some dudes.
Absolutely. So we hope you're doing well, Coach. Thank you for watching.
Boy X too. You get Xavier at Boston College. So yeah, there's a lot of South Jersey dudes playing at the upper levels.
Donovan Ezaraku.
That's right.
Also Jalen Cheek at Boston College
That's right.
as well, and Khalil Ali.
That's true. And
I mean, we could do this.
We could have a whole
night.
show on who's playing Division I football for South Jersey.
Yeah. And, maybe Coach Thomas is in here to hear who could be next playing college football in New Jersey. We hope he is.
He's reading
Or
Patrick
from
stuff
South Jersey.
too.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we're going to recap the rest of the week that was right after this. So stay tuned for the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show Week in Review.
Visit our website for more information.
Welcome back, New Jersey football fans, to the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show here. A lot of action last week, some surprising scores, some tight ones, and we are quickly running out of unbeaten teams as well. But first, let's take a look. We had one result on Thursday night. Burlington City moves to 3-2 when they beat Buna 51-0. Malachi James, if this is true, 5 carries, 195 yards, 3 touchdowns, caught a couple touchdowns.
Why wouldn't it be true?
I'm not doubting our guy Chris Baker, who helps us track down these stats. Chris, thanks again this week. Malachi James, it looks like
Almost
8 touches for a combined 265 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Also, I believe this was his first game at running back.
It will not be his last game at running back.
Why? Coach, what happened? He's averaging almost 40 yards a carry.
Yeah, that's pretty special. Congratulations to the Blue Devils. They moved to 3-2. Buna is still on winless. Friday, a close one. We mentioned this on last week's show, one that to keep an eye on. Hamilton hosting Mainland. We weren't sure. We knew there'd be a lot of runs and not a lot of passes. More passes than we expect. 28 passes.
Yeah, we lost the over-under on that one. 28 was the over, definitely.
Way over, but 64 runs is still on par with what we thought. Mainland wins this one 14-7. Kenny Smith for Hamilton runs 17 times 80 yards. He had a 31-yard score that tied it at 7-7 in the third. The Mustangs then had a 91-yard drive in the fourth quarter that spanned 14 plays. A 3-yard run from Stephen Ordilli ran it in to win the game. Also a key 24-yard pass from John Franchini at quarterback to Jamie Tyson to set up the finish. Great story on the drive by Kevin Minnick on NJ.com. He also pointed out Cohen Cook, 3 tackles for loss and a forced fumble, key for the Mustangs as well as they survive in a place where it's not easy to win on a Friday night.
14-blade drives hard. You always hear 91 yards in high school. Sometimes that's 6, 7, 8, 14 plays. That means guys weren't going off sides, no procedure penalties, you didn't fumble the ball, 14 straight plays. So very impressive in some conditions, and a drive that was needed to win a football game.
Absolutely, and two teams that could see each other down the road in the Group 4 playoffs, as both of them seem to be key in the positioning. I know the PowerPoints came out, I believe, yesterday. Both of them are firmly in the mix. I think Mainland is atop that list right now in Group 4 as they remain unbeaten. Rancocas Valley moves to 4-1. They beat rival Burlington Township 49-27. Nick Marco, good day, quarterback, 13-15. 2 touchdowns. He ran for 2 more. Jameer Bellamy, 13 carries, 146, and 2 touchdowns. Brody Dieter catches a couple as the Red Devils get in the win column against a bitter rival.
Yeah, RV, they got some guys. Coach doing a great job there. Township 2-3, struggle a little bit, but 49, that's a lot of points. So I know Township will clean up that defense. It seems like they get going towards those playoff worlds. So. But always a good game between those two teams. Yeah,
RV's offense this year has not put up a ton of points, and here they are, 49. They are going to face Hamilton this coming weekend in a game to watch as well. We'll touch on that in the next segment. Winslow moves to 4-1. They beat Shawnee 27-14. Deontay Ruffin returns. He throws for 101 and a touchdown. He ran for 2 as well. Cam Miller catches a touchdown. Joe Papa, 220 yards passing, 2 touchdowns in the loss. Mac, the Renegades, again, they're going to be firmly in the Group 4 conversation in the playoffs. Winslow is up in the top of that tank.
Right. And Shawnee's in that juggernaut of their schedule, that part. It was similar last year, where the Winslow. This week they got Augie. It's a tough sled in that world there. So
it's the Group 4 alert, baby.
Yep.
You guys can hear that.
Yeah. So Again, there's no quote-unquote moral victories in those. You need to squeak a win out in one of these roles because you're playing some top-notch teams, and if you want a win against one of them, is the difference between a 2 or 3 seed in a section, right?
Yeah, Rod, you saw that game up close. You look at these teams and how they kind of mature down the stretch here. What stood out to you about it?
The biggest thing that stood out was just the physicality. One of the things that I took away early from Winslow, I didn't think that they were that physical up front. As the season has gone on, they've got a lot better up front, being down in the red zone. Mm-hmm. They were able to stop Shawnee, I believe, 3 times in the red zone. So that's big when you're talking about big games against St. Aul coming up, right? And those teams like that, you have to be able to punch those.
Got to convert.
Right, and usually Shawnee with Papa, you get inside the red zone with his abilities to not only throw the shorts and play action, but to run the ball himself. He becomes that 11th guy. The extra gap, all the quarterback runs that you talk about. Papa can be a tough load to bring down, and to your point, Rod. Winslow shutting it down inside the 20.
And one of those was, I believe, on like the 3-yard line.
Right.
It's not like it was all outside of the 20 or close to the 20. It was down deep in the red zone where they were able to stop them. But one guy I got to point out, if it's okay.
Please do.
Number 9 from Shawnee is a grown man. Gilmore.
Yes, he is.
Liam Gilmore.
Defensively, he caused problems.
He's all over the place, sideline to sideline. That's for sure.
Yeah. So if you're watching a game, it's kind of hard to, look at a player on an opposing team that lost as a real, as a person that was the MVP of the game. But man, that guy jumps out.
He's got a big motor. Yeah, I've seen him since he was a young kid.
Big frame.
Big motor. Football family. Father played at Ohio State. Played in the league. So. Gilmore does a great job on defense, and they got some other guys. They're a little bit young in some spots too.
Yeah.
So they in rallying to some things in those games. I'm not saying they were the underdog, but I think on paper Shawnee was or the underdog in that. Mm-hmm. You got to score in the red zone.
You have to. You have to.
You got in the beginning. And that's not a shot at Shawnee. Winslow's coaching their kids up too. They're playing. Mm-hmm. They're doing a good job as well.
What Winslow's been able to do here and have all these question marks at the beginning of the season of how are things going to fit together, and now they're 5 games in, they fit together quite well. You look at the way that they've been able to play Shawnee the last couple of years, they've gotten the better of them. And again, another matchup that should we see it in the playoffs, I think everybody would be excited for that. Now, Group 4, as we've mentioned, is just about as loaded as it can get from a South Jersey perspective.
Loaded and parity, right? I mean, you probably, right now, you could name one of 4 or 5 teams that wins the South.
Yeah.
Out of those 16 teams right now that are in the top 16 for the playoff spots.
Yeah.
I mean, someone else maybe, but I could easily say one of the 5.
I mean, the margin of error is very small.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those games we've already seen with Millville and with Mainland, some of those, I mean, one play would change it.
Which is why the difference of beating, going to a Shawnee schedule, beating an Augie, getting a seed somewhere, right? If you can pull a game where you're maybe not the favorite, does that become, are you the 4th, or instead of the 5th seed somewhere, are you hosting a second round game instead of going on the road, in those one-score games? Being home is nice. I mean, if everybody wants to be at home, and when it comes to a coin, sometimes, look, some teams are just better than other teams, but when it comes to a coin toss, sometimes you want to be in your own confines.
It's especially true when you start looking at weather, when you start looking at grass versus turf.
Right.
When you look at these things down the line, one thing to mention, Mainland is atop the Group 4 PowerPoints right now. Now, when you look at the rest of their schedule, they're not going to get a whole lot of help in that status, whereas Millville still has some Group 5 teams to play, and Lenape and Cherokee. They also have to play Shawnee, who has a number of points himself. So I think even though Mainland is at the top right now, I would think Millville's in the driver's seat for that top seed should they take care of their business. And
right.
And Winslow's right there. I mean, you never know what could happen. It's week in, week out.
I mean, the question...
Shawnee now faces a very big game this week that we'll touch on, right?
Yeah.
And we said last week they were searching for wins in this 4 group, and they're over 2 so far.
Right, we were doing before the show. You're looking at these different matchups. I mean, who's going to be on which side of the bracket, who gets the 1 and the 2 on the opposite side. I mean, yes, I think if Millville does take care of business, they will be the eventual 1 if they're the chalk, right?
Right.
But last year they hit a speed bump too on the way, and some of those things happen. So you don't know.
We're getting some comments in here. We got a lot of good intel on Group 1. Specifically in North Jersey, and who's got what where. I know some of you all are joining us from all over the state. Feel free to just chime in, give us some intel on teams across the state. One of the biggest wins of the weekend was Glassboro on Friday night. We mentioned they were going to Woodstown, a tough place to play. They were really close to winning 2 games against Group 2 teams in Middle Township, who's still undefeated, I believe, and Pleasantville, who's also going to be a playoff team in Group 2. So you looked at Glassboro, and we said on this show last week, Mac, could they take that step in a tough place to play with a young team? And they did, 13-7 in overtime. They beat Woodstown. Xavier Sabb with a touchdown catch, and the game-clinching interception in overtime. Maury Sabb with a rushing touchdown. Glassboro makes its statement win here. For Timmy Breaker, it's his 4th game as a head coach at his alma mater, and they put their stamp on the season. And in Group 1 in South Jersey, they've announced themselves beating Woodstown on the road. That is no easy feat.
No, it's not. And I wouldn't say a must-win, but going in there, a 1-2 football team, 2-2 sounds a lot better than 1-3. That's right. For sure.
No question about it. St. Augustine beat Holy Spirit 14-0. Julian Turney, both touchdown runs. Ty McClear and Julian Onesti, an interception each. I saw Onesti had an interception against Mainland too. Very, very good player in the back end there for the Hermits as they moved to 3-2, and they hand bitter rival Holy Spirit their first loss of the season in Absecon, no less. Delsea beats Kingway 41-13. Dan Russo rushes 16 times, 155 yards and a touchdown. Wayne Adair back in the mix, 6 carries, 86 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Zach Maxwell with a rushing touchdown as well. Washington Township gets by Williamstown in a rivalry game, close quarters there, 19-12. Giuliano Scavetta leads the way for the Minutemen, 25 carries, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. They're in Group 5. 2 Group 5 teams. Highland 27, Absegami 6. I want to shout this out because Nehemiah Butler Mayhew, excellent game. 34 carries, 259 yards, 4 touchdowns, man. What do you think?
Wow.
Don't overthink it, man.
What do you mean?
Nehemiah.
8 yards a carry-ish?
A lot.
A lot.
34 carries, man.
That's working them.
Yeah.
That is working him. You ask any back, they want 40. You know?
And they probably was in the stand screaming, give him the ball, coach.
Give him the ball.
Right?
Give him the ball.
Coach, he's averaging 8. Keep giving him the ball.
Hey, Coach Leary stuck with the formula there, and it was a winning one. Again, the Tartans moved to 2-3, 27-6 over Absegami. Cinnaminson still unbeaten, 22-9. They beat Delran, their rivals down the street. Brian Finnerty, 7 of 9 for 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gavin Pendergast, 2 receptions, 87 yards, a touchdown. Clearview rolls Egg Harbor Township 45-12. Sean Ralph, 20 carries, 202 yards, and a touchdown. Middle Township remains unbeaten. They beat Gateway 40-7. Mike Zarfati, 2 touchdown catches. Remy Rodriguez, 15 carries, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Holy Cross 39, Lindenwold 8. Shout out to Holy Cross, Chris Scott, 12 carries, 136 yards, a touchdown, and a punt return touchdown. But the reason we bring this up, Mac, is Lindenwold realized they were going to demote the rest of the season just to having a JV team, moving to a JV schedule moving forward. I believe they forfeited this week, I think. They were going to honor that because it was too late. You know, they still wanted to play Holy Cross. But a team that's dropped to JV, I mean, the one that comes to my mind a handful of years ago was Pittman, that now is competitive again in their own area. So, you know, you can build back up. But sad news to hear they're dropping down to JV.
Do they, I mean, seniors, do they, I mean, logistically, will they play seniors with that JV schedule? I don't know. Not good.
Not good news out of
But
Lindenwold.
hopefully to bounce back, right? I mean, if you got to play a full JV schedule to hopefully bounce back and to your point with Pittman did.
We shall see. Chris Baker said they did indeed forfeit this week against Shalleck. So Shalleck is our first team to reach 6 wins, I guess. I think they were 5-0. Right? Yeah, they were 5-0. They're 6-0 now. So the unbeatens have dwindled down, but Shalleck will not be counted as one of them as they move on and get a week off, I guess. Timber Creek is undefeated. They beat Cherry Hill West 43 to, I want to say nothing. I don't know. I lost that part of my score here. Quadir Baldwin, 12 carries, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns, a receiving touchdown. Zaire Green, he's the one that had the nod of the week last week against RV, 2 rushing touchdowns and an interception for the Chargers. Atlantic City 45, Deptford 6. They bounced back in a big way. Joe Lyons, 9 for 10, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. He ran for a touchdown. Dre Rooks ran for 116 yards and a touchdown. Sinai DeGraffenrate, the Ice Cup, 3 catches? Carries. 91 yards and a touchdown. All right.
That's 30.3. That's a good day.
The Ice Cup, man, I got to say, he gets it done.
Yeah, a lot of people got it done that day. 45 points.
Yeah, not bad.
He's pretty good.
It was 43-0, by the way, in that Timber Creek Cherry Hill West game. I had to double check. Some other scores, let's run through them real quickly here. Pensauken moves to 3-1. They beat Trenton 28-0. Central Pennsylvania beat Kip Cooper Academy 44-0. Willingboro 3-2 with a 44-0 win over St. Joe Hamilton. Lenape 21, Eastern 3. Lower Cape May beats Wildwood 34-0. New Egypt 28, Palmyra zip. Cedar Grove 45, Mastery Charter 6. Collingswood shuts out Sterling 52-0 in a rivalry game. Allentown 47, Bordentown, the Scotties 14. Triton 36, Pemberton 6. Overbrook beats Maple Shade 28-6. It is a rivalry game that hasn't got much hype over the years here recently, but one that I know the teams involved really never had a whole lot of love for each other. Cumberland beats Bridgeton 37-27. The Colts get that one. Florence still undefeated, 22-0 over Haddon Township.
The Frap Tour.
In Joe Frapoli's 50th and final season. Riverside 30, Pittman 21. Shalleck unbeaten, we mentioned it before. They're still unbeaten going into next week with the forfeiture that came courtesy of Lindenwold. The score 38-20 against Pennsville last week. West Deptford in a battle of winless teams gets on the board 14-13 over Paulsboro. They get the Mayor's Trophy. Corey Ratcliffe with 3 sacks for the Eagles in that one. Princeton beats...
So Paulsboro and St. Joe Hamilton are combined 0-9?
Yes.
Wow. I would have not. That's
Paulsboro's off to its slowest start since 1970, I believe. 0-4 is the last time they were there was 1970, which is is that before your time?
1970. I was on this earth. I wasn't watching any football. I probably was at a football game. I don't know if I comprehended it.
You're on the sideline, being held as a baby.
Somewhere.
Princeton blanks Bishop Eustace 24-0. Crusaders fall from the ranks of the unbeaten. West Windsor Plainsboro South. That's got to be the longest high school name in South Jersey, right? Or New Jersey, right?
WWPS?
I guess it's the same amount of length as West Windsor Plainsboro North. They beat Cherry Hill East 20-14. Moorestown and Oakcrest, this is 2 weeks in a row. 2 of 3 weeks. We've had a 3-0 game, right? We had St. Augustine beat Cherokee 3-0 a few weeks ago. And we had Moorestown moves to 4-1. They beat Oakcrest 3-0 on Elias Diamantakis. Game-winning field goal. Saturday, Haddon Heights moves to 3-1. They shut out Pennsgrove 14-0. At the Rumble on the Raritan at Rutgers, Camden beat Camden Catholic 28-6, and Cedar Creek beat Salem 20-14. The undefeated teams I have by my count: in Group 1, Shalleck and Florence. In Group 2, Haddonfield, Middle Township, and Cinnaminson. Remember, these are just in South Jersey. In Group 3, Timber Creek, and in Group 4, Mainland. That's what I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 unbeatens remaining in South Jersey.
See who you're going to pick in your survival pool this week.
That'd be a pretty awesome contest if we did that with our fans.
That would be cool.
For fun only.
This week. Yeah, just for fun.
Units.
Yeah.
Do units.
It's time for our knots of the week. We have 2 of them. First, we're going to go to that 19-12 game in Washington Township and Williamstown. We have Harold Hill, who decides, you know what, let's just take this thing to the house. Hasn't been the best year for the Braves, but this is a highlight from Hill. Hits the gap, and, got to beat the kicker.
Wow.
Some happy Braves on the sideline there. As Washington Township ends up winning that 19-12. And number 1, Chris Scott of Holy Cross. We mentioned him last year. Chris Scott with the knot. I'm going to take it. Chris Scott, he messaged me last week. He says Scott does rhyme with knot. He confirmed that for me. He's exactly right. He had 2 kickoff return TDs last week and a scoop and score. And this week, he gets his knot of the week. Well Excellent job, Chris. Congratulations to the Lancers for the win.
Well done.
We've got stuff to look at for next week. We're going to have some knots of the week next week that I think are going to be pretty astounding too. We get some good submissions every week, Mac. It's hard to kind of pare it down to a couple, but, we'll see. Plenty of action to touch on. So why don't we take a quick break, and then we'll come back and touch on that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Our website for more information.
South Jersey, let me tell you about my friends over at SRA Home Products. SRA has been building sunrooms, pergolas, and patio covers for over 25 years. They've built more than 9,000 projects. in the Delaware Valley. I've had the opportunity to be around owner Mike Fody, and I have nothing but the best things to say about Mike and his crew. SRA is a gold accredited member of the Better Business Bureau under the elite provider status with Home Advisor, and they've racked up a ton of Best of South Jersey awards in the past. They contribute to multiple sport associations and are huge supporters of Williamstown football. Find them online today at srahomeproducts.com. I want to thank all our sponsors of the show, of course. Matt Zubak, Athletic Performance. Be sure to check him out over in West Berlin. We had the URL there in the commercial. And NJFOA, the South chapter. Look, they're going to help you out, get educated, become a ref, make some extra bucks, man. We can always use the help out there on the turf on Fridays, Saturdays, Thursdays, whatever.
It's a good time.
Let's take a look at the week ahead. And I have a comment here from Donna Trongone, who says, check out Millville's new field. That's exactly where we're going to start, Donna. This week.
Yeah, it's nice.
Lenape at Millville, 6 p.m. Millville's turf, the new turf on Wheaton Field at John Barbosa Stadium, Millville. One of the best teams in South Jersey, Lenape looking for that signature win. Should be a pretty defensive-minded game, I would think. Both very good defenses.
Well, this
right,
was an interesting game last year, right? I mean, Lenape did pull up the upset last year. Millville, has a lot of the guys back from last year. I mean, it's a tough one to play down there when your field's getting christened and the whole bit. So Lenape's gonna have their hands full. Yeah.
Both these teams got new turf in the last 2 years, right? Both played on sod before.
Correct.
I don't think that, it seemed like over the years, Millville playing at Wheaton Field, although it is an advantage in front of those fans, playing on turf sometimes for Millville was pretty nice too.
Yeah, they
get the benefit of both, turf at home.
Turf at home.
Right.
And we've touched on this in prior years and prior shows. It's not just the 4 to 5 home games that you have on the turf. Even though these stadiums we talk about, Lenape's is beautiful. Yeah. Kingsway's got it in recent years. Now Millville, I'm going to forget some that these places are beautiful. But what it helps about like these last couple of days with this rain, you can practice literally 10 minutes after it's done raining. The drainage on these things are unbelievable.
Yeah.
And looking for practice, it's beautiful.
It is.
And look, I love the orange track. I love the orange end zones too. Great job there. Practicing during the week and finding a space that's dry and getting to get on a field like that. I mean, a lot of people are in the gym, you're out there like, you have your old school coaches, let's practice in the mud. Yeah, that's fine. But can you get stuff done? You got your risk of a slip, a twist ankle, whatever. So the turf, just for that reason alone, is fantastic. Plus, every other sport can use it too: field hockey, soccer, et cetera, lacrosse in the spring. And the track looks beautiful.
I know the Millville faithful will be able to fill up the seats. They have been looking for this game at home. They played a game at Vineland, of all places, so their rival opened up the field for them when they played Irvington earlier in the season. And I know they are quite excited to get out there on that brand new turf. It looks beautiful. Millville hosts Lenape at 6 p.m. on Friday night. Also at 6 p.m., Shawnee heads to St. Augustine. We referred to it earlier in the show. We referred to it last week. Shawnee seeking a win in this 4-game gauntlet that was Cherokee, Winslow, St. Augustine, Millville. They're 0 for 2 thus far. They're going on the road to Richland. Not an easy team to play, not an easy place to win. What do you think, Mac?
Again, hands full. Augies can pound for pound internally, right? They got the dudes. Coach Lancetta and crew, they know how to win. And so does Gush and his guys. Again, you got to go on the road at Augie. Side note, footnote, hey, Old Cape Atlantic, I know you like the 6 o'clock games, but now that we have this massive conference, it's kind of a bit of a drive for some of these teams, no?
It is, but you know what? In talking to athletic directors who've switched over to it, I would be surprised in 5 years if there are any 7 p.m. starts. I think it's over. I really do. I think they like being able, at the beginning of the season, you get people in there when it's light out, you get them home. People don't have to work as late. They don't have to hang around the school as late. I think the 7 p.m. kickoffs are going to be extinct. I'm not saying I don't
Rod,
like
it sounds like he wants to get home early. I mean, Rod and I are looking at him with side eye, right, Rod?
That's
I
for
like
sure.
7 p.m. starts, but I'm just saying, the way the wind is blowing, there's more and more every year at 6 p.m.
Yeah, I understand it, but you have parents out here that work and don't get off until 5 o'clock fighting traffic, trying
Correct.
to get down to Richland or
Correct.
get down to Medford. That's not what you would like to do consistently.
No, you want people to see these games. I mean, look, we're not going to soapbox this too much, but I mean, look, I get it, Cape Atlantic, you've done it for a million years, but when you have a team, say, that has to drive more than, I don't know, 45 to an hour to get to your place, both Shawnee and Lenape this week are going down to Millville and St. Augustine. Right? Now, if you ask the St. Augustine kids, would you rather play 6 or 7? What do you think they say?
6.
You think so?
Yeah.
No way. 7 o'clock. They like playing when it gets darker.
That's like
I think they like playing a little later.
Bobby Isom uses half his vacation days to watch his son play.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, that's not right.
Yeah.
Let it get a little darker. We're not going to daylight savings time staying in the next year.
It's a good point, but I will say, like in high school basketball, they play at 3 o'clock on Fridays. Like they'll play 3:45.
They're playing 40 games a year.
So that's who really should
plays
face the
10,
music.
12 a year. That's it. And you got bands, you got cheerleaders, it's a student body thing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is an opinion, and I'm sticking to it. I like the later start. Heck, back in the day, Holy Cross used to play Saturday nights at like 8 o'clock sometimes. It was like they were competing with NCAA games.
They had an NCAA team pretty much of that with Wally Lundy and those guys.
Wally fully locked in.
Yeah, right? These guys had to get used to playing at Saturday night at 8 p.m.
All right.
Since we're done with 6 p.m. starts, let's take a look at the games that are 7 p.m., Mac, if you want to go to a game.
I am
on
going to a
Friday
game.
night.
I'm going to the Shawnee. The Lenape, Millville, I think.
Drive safely. Don't rush.
I might probably be late.
Clayton hosts Glassboro, 7 p.m. The Clippers had a bye week last week after
What was
their
the blip up there by Kevin? It's good for media deadlines? Yes. Yeah. Well, tell your editors to change their deadlines. We're dealing in a digital world now, Kevin. We don't print papers anymore. I'm going nuts, Rod.
The soapbox.
I'm up on it.
You're gonna knock
I love you, Kev. I love you. You know that.
Well, here's the thing. There are no more deadlines. There's no more paper. All right. There may still be papers in Clayton. And Glassboro is at Clayton, 7 p.m. Friday night. The Clippers had the bye week last week after their first loss came at the hands of Middle Township. Glassboro's young team had that huge win last week in overtime at Woodstown. We talked about that being a step in growth for a young team, being able to win on the road against a good team and, really getting that notch on your belt. Another step of that is winning a game you're probably favored in on the road the week after you win that big game. Can you come out and take care of business? That's the next step in maturity, right, man?
Being favored on the road is tough, especially in toss-up type games. So, how much, Coach, hey, guys, we got to stop smelling ourselves, come Tuesday, we got to get it back in order here. The best way to back up a win is to win.
That's right.
Right? Best way to back up a big win is to win another one. Stack days, as Coach Pagic talks about.
That's right.
Stack days. Stack wins.
Paul to 6 at Morristown, 7 p.m. The Quakers have won 4 in a row since their opening season loss to Burlington Township. They've outscored their opponents 70-7 in that quartet of games, and last week was 3-0. So, that's the weeks before that was 63-7 combined. Paul to 6 is also undefeated since its opener. They're 3-0, and they had a bye last week. They're 3-0 since their opener. Dom Santiago's playing great at quarterback. I saw this game last year. It was at Paul to 6. It was a 20-0 win for Paul to 6. Morristown has been one of the best stories in South Jersey so far this year, quietly, right?
A little bounce back, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Should be an interesting one. Haddon Heights at Camden, 7 p.m. Heights is making strides after another team that started this season with a loss. It was 34-7 to Woodstown. They've been putting some pieces together here recently. The defenses look good. They head to Farnham Park to face one of South Jersey's best defenses and one of their best teams. But Camden also has been untested in the area so far to this point. They have Haddonfield in a big one next week as well. Farnham Park, Haddon Heights, Camden. Short drive from Lawnside.
Yeah,
right?
10-minute drive. Still a 7 o'clock game.
Yeah.
Hour drive, 6 o'clock game.
Bobby, you got a fan right here, man. RV at Hamilton, 7 p.m. Rancocas Valley. Oh, the game's been moved. Look at this.
Who did?
Colin Conway says.
Which one? 1 p.m. Saturday.
Chris Baker, 1 p.m. Saturday.
Is it weather related? Ah.
Confirmed by Will
Somebody,
Hickson.
yeah, Will
as well.
Hickson.
See?
So it's got to be a fax.
So
That's
now we got that. Now we got that. Hey, look, man. There's 2 big games in the city on Saturday. Same kick time.
Uh-oh. Can Eastside go back to old school 11?
Oh man, that used to be the days.
Right? That's what they used to do. I told that story early in the season.
All right, so that is at 1 p.m. on Saturday when Camden will host Haddon Heights. Rancocas Valley at Hamilton, 7 p.m. Friday night. RV bounced back in a big way with the blowout of rival Burlington Township after that heartbreaker to Timber Creek. Hamilton, they go to Timber Creek and Delsea back-to-back weeks after this, and they close at home against Ocean City. So they got some tough games coming up as well. It was 21-14 for the Blue Devils last season when they played. It was at RV. I think this is a good measuring stick for both teams. Who do we have here? Who is this Hamilton team? We watched them play close with Eastern and Highland. We saw them play close with Mainland, who's one of the best teams in South Jersey. We saw them destroy St. John Vianney. We saw Cherokee put, 40 points in the second half on them. Yeah. It's starting to get to that point where the weather, the elements, is favoring Hamilton type of football.
Hamilton weather.
Right? It's Hamilton weather. They're playing at home. This is going to be, one thing's for sure, Mac. This is going to be a devil of a ball game. Blue Devils and Red Devils, man.
That's so bad.
Womp womp. Saturday, another Saturday game. 10:30 a.m. Woodbury, Gloucester at Woodbury. Since the opening season loss to Shalleck, who's undefeated. Gloucester has bounced back as well. 3 blowouts over Overbrook, Buna, and Audubon, not in that order. This should be their toughest test for the rest of the way when you look at their schedule, and it's a big one. Woodbury wants to get right after that loss to Haddonfield. They have Woodstown next week in a big game as well. So this one, 10:30 a.m., Gloucester, Woodbury. I think it's going to be well worth the price of admission. And I should mention, as a shameless promoter of Good Walking Taco, I had one in the rain at Woodbury on Saturday. It was pretty good.
Did a good job.
They did. I'm never going to put one ahead of Winslow, but it was pretty good. Did they have one? Oh, no, it was at Shawnee.
It was at Shawnee, yeah.
I don't want to bore us.
They don't have walking tacos at Shawnee.
No. I don't want to bore us, but is Vicarelli back?
We'll see.
To check the practice reports, you have to call Coach Nam.
That's what I mean. In high school, you don't know till you know. You don't even know off the bus, right? We've taped up dudes with broken stuff coming off buses. we just, hey, Stan, right? You've had dudes taped up as the other coaches are going, is he hurt?
Yeah.
I thought he was hurt. No, he's good.
You know, Anthony Reagan Jr. is an old school player.
Yeah,
and so is Jake Zierfoss. I mean, if these guys meet in the hole at any point during this game, you'll see some almost like neck roll style plays, man. You know, some of those
dudes.
taped finger style plays.
They're dudes.
Yeah, Kevin remembers Saturday. I said, do you think they have any warm food? They did. It was a walking taco. It was hot even in the rain. That's what we need. Haven't touched on the game of the week yet, but I'll give you a hint. It's at the same time, and it's in the same city as the Camden Haddon Heights game. We're going to touch on that game right after this and give you the best 11 rankings in the final segment of the show. So sit tight. We'll be right back after this.
Champion
Coach Tom Pagic is Jersey Gridiron Scout, the premier precision training academy and college recruiting platform for all middle school and high school prospects in the tri-state area. Sign up for off-season winter and spring indoor position trainings for youth, high school, and college prospects from January to June at Mavericks Training Facility in Morristown. Register for the Underclassmen College Showcase in May for high school prospects to be evaluated in front of over 50 colleges and put yourself on the radar of college coaches. Families can become educated on the college football recruiting process and timeline by partnering up with Jersey Gridiron Scout today. Check out Tom's website, jerseygridironscout.com. Follow him on Instagram, Jersey Gridiron Scout, and on Twitter, @Coach Pagic, P-A-J-I-C. The show is also brought to you by our presenting sponsor, the West Jersey Football Coaches Association, established to promote, improve, and unite football in South Jersey. That's exactly what they've done. In less than 3 years, the association created the Battle at the Beach and has dedicated itself to helping others. They've donated more than $50,000 to date to provide scholarships through the National Football Foundation and the Touchdown Club of Southern New Jersey. They also donate to the charity Philly Faces, which helps those in need of facial reconstruction surgery. Thank you to the West Jersey Football Coaches Association for your sponsorship of the show. All right, Mac. These two teams, whenever they play, it's usually a pretty good game, and I'm expecting another one on Saturday in our game of the week as Willingboro at 3-2 heads to Camden Eastside 4-1, 1 p.m. on Federal Street. The players to watch here from Tom Pagic, there is no doubt he's got a beat on this one. Quarterback Lamar Bess of Willingboro, sophomore quarterback, 5'11", 165, number 3. He's having a great year. He's one of the top dual threats in South Jersey, on pace to surpass his offensive numbers from his freshman year, which were also impressive as they reached the state semifinals. Poised in the pocket, accurate. Does a great job on second platform throws, says Coach Pagic. He ranks third in South Jersey in passing with 1,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, 65% completion percentage. He's also run for 297 and 4 touchdowns. And on East Side, I guess that'd be the East Side, Willie Love, 6'2", 190 pounds, senior defensive end, outside linebacker, wide receiver, does it all, impact player, can do anything a receiver. He's six catches, 122 yards and a score. Disruptor off the edge of the defense, great length, sets the edge, gets off blocks well, violent tackler, covers ground quickly. Really good two-way player, makes a difference in every game he's in, Coach Pagic says. And also, heck of a nice kid. Every time, I see him play, he doesn't look nice, but really nice to me. Mac, it's a big one here, East Side. I got St. Augustine in a couple weeks. They lost that game to Shawnee at home, but you could kind of see from afar things starting to come together for them. They won that weird triple overtime game against Pennsauken. The defense showed up in that one. They are in a tight one with Cedar Creek and then kind of blow it open at the end at home.
Right.
They're a team that when you look at Group 3, and we've talked about Timber Creek and Delsea and Cedar Creek and, of course, Camden High. East Side is bringing some dudes.
They're doing their thing. This is a game Willingboro kind of comes in sometimes with house money, right? They're Group 2.
Yes.
Playing a highly touted Group 3. So you're getting points from the jump, win or lose. And then on top of that, I'm not saying, East Side's in a spot where they're, are they supposed to win? But anytime you got a quarterback like Mr. Best, right? He now is in his second year. He's a sophomore, second-year starter. It's more like a junior, feels like, right? He's completing a lot of percentage passes, which is huge, 65%. That's a legit, real deal number. But being able to, what Coach Pagic says, being able to extend the play, like Mahomes-like, right? You think you got him down, and he just, not only can he make the quarterback runs on design quarterback runs, but he makes the D-backs cover a little longer. It puts a lot of stress on the defense.
Fun game for a number of reasons. Not only are there going to be some great players out there on the field, some fun styles of ball to watch, these guys have played some battles over the years.
Sure they have. Yeah.
They were always, it seemed like, in the same division since the West Jersey League started. There was that triangle game, that triangle set of games. It was Cedar Creek, Willingboro, Camden Eastside, then Woodrow Wilson.
Right.
For the most part, Willingboro got the better of Camden Eastside. I think Camden Eastside won the last matchup last year. But Willingboro, Coach Everett, Coach Brown, his brother Preston was there for a number of years. They had some battles. I remember watching a game up there at Willingboro that came right down to the very end. At the end of the first half, we were there, Rod. Remember, Wilson got stopped on the goal line. And Chris Long caught the game-winning touchdown. Demi Sumo did his thing there for Willingboro a couple years ago. People in Willingboro and Camden all know. I mean, there's a number of folks who are familiar and going to be talking a lot of trash in this one, Mac. And I think it's going to be a pretty good game.
Yeah, it's going to be a real good game. Willingboro is kind of like, we talked about this in the past. You can say they're a Group 2 team. They don't look like a Group 2 team. I mean, they might only have maybe 35 dudes in uniform, but it's 35 dudes, right? I mean, I got to remind the parents out there, they count what group you're in by how many students you have in a school, not how many football players you have in the school, right? There's some 5s that aren't really look like 5s, and this is a 2 that shows up and looks like a 5. As does Wilson, Eastside. Eastside, they're a 3, but you're gonna have some. This is legit dudes going after each other, right? Athletes on both sides, big up front, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, it comes down to those little things, right? Field position, turnovers, lack of.
Rod saw this game up close last year. It was a close game. Rod, what do you think about the matchup? I mean, here we go.
Always a good matchup when you get Willingboro, Camden. They do some things that are similar, but definitely it's going to come down to the guys up front. When you're talking about Big Jumbo, Reddick, I think he just committed to Morgan State.
Yeah.
So that's a big guy you can run behind. And the way that Eastside has been playing with their new quarterback, he's starting to get a feel for the quarterback position. It's been a long time, a little bit before, since he's played that position. So it's definitely going to come down to the line play. Line play and special teams, those are the 2 areas that I pick out. Last year's game ended on pretty much an interception by Jules Dominguez in the back of the end zone. It's going to be a classic game, man. Really good game. It's always a classic. Lamar Best is as advertised. So, I mean.
10:30 start. What time does it get over? What's the over-under getting
1
over?
p.m.
Oh, it's a 1. I'm sorry. 1?
I would say 4.
You think
27.
Really? You're going the over. I was going to say 4 is the over-under. You're saying plus over 3 hours.
Yeah, I think the Cedar Creek game ended at 4:25 or something too. So
We're going the over on that.
I do think on the other side, I think the Heights Camden game will let out much earlier.
That one's going.
I think both teams. I mean, I think it's going to be more defensive base. I think it's going to be more running the ball. That's what I'm thinking. The time.
Yeah, both teams have pretty decent defenses.
Yeah. Tick, tick, tick. Clock go.
Yeah.
Let's get to the best 11 rankings real quick, Mac. It was easy this week. We had no movement. Number 11's Eastside. I don't believe they played last week.
They were idle, I think.
10, Shawnee. They lost to Winslow, who's ranked higher than them by a couple of scores in what was all accounts, pretty close game. Number 9, Holy Spirit. They lost to St. Augustine, who's above them in the rankings by 14 points. Pretty close game. Timber Creek still undefeated. They're number 8. Camden's at number 7. Delsea is at number 6. Winslow at 5. Cherokee at 4. St. Augustine at 3. Mainland at 2. They hold on to that 2 spot with a tight win at Hamilton. And Millville at number 1. So there was no movement. 2 teams lost in the best 11 rankings, and they lost to teams that were above them. I think just on the outside looking in, Haddonfield, I think Cedar Creek, Paul VI, Willingboro, Washington Township, Maybe Hamilton in that mix. Some other schools.
I think Hanfield might
Woodbury's not that far out.
be. Hanfield's real close to popping in.
Yeah.
You know,
Willingboro.
We only do 11. If we did 15, there they are. But yeah, Borough East Side will be a determinant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Before we get out,
Real quick, Rod.
let me ask you guys this. I
Yep.
was just thinking. We always do the over-under. So for the game of the week, we have Eastside Willingboro. We have over-under 70 pass attempts.
Under.
I say under, but that was a good number. I say under. That's why I threw out the 4 o'clock, 4.5 hour, 3.5 hour game, Rod.
Right.
68 pass
66.
attempts. 68 pass attempts.
66.
All right.
68.
So
So I'll
we'll-
say the under 70. I'm saying 68, 66.
We'll make sure we bring this back up next week
We
to
always,
see
we
how
always
we do.
try to figure it out.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you. How about yardage passing? Total yardage, 5 something.
525.
There you go. I like that number.
438.
Oh, it's on the low side. I think we're closer to 5.
Closer to 5.
All right. We will see on Saturday. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. And if you need any needs from a studio, you got to come to Studio B. Be sure to look up Rod and at the D2 Sports Network, at D2 Sports Network 1 on Instagram. Be sure to look up Rod. He will help you out with anything you need. Mac, good week. See you next week.
Yes, sir.
Stay dry.
Go
Everybody
Phils.
stay dry. Go Phils. Go Birds. We will be back next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m., the South Jersey Football Frenzy Show. Thank you for spending your Wednesday night with us.